Hello, in this video we are going to be looking at the custom column feature. This was added in release control 601, so as long as you have release control 601 or newer, you can take advantage of this. There are a lot of details in the installation and setup guide in chapter 10, so you can read more about it there. Basically, what this feature allows you to do in release control is to manipulate the columns that are shown in your release package. So if we open up our example release package, we can see it. For example, on the deployment unit tab, we have 3 columns here, but these 3 columns might not be enough for you. You might want to customize these and change them. Another place that we see it is on the request tab. On here there's only 2 columns by default, so we might want to change those as well. So that's what we're going to change. To modify these columns, you actually have to go in the Application Administrator. And this is done through some table settings on the auxiliary tables. So we just go into auxiliary table, find the table, it's called RLC Custom Columns, and we'll see 2 default entries in here. If you open up the first one, you'll see that this one is for the deployment unit view, and if we go to the next, we'll see that this is for the request view. So depending on which one you want to modify, that's the one that you look at. We can also see in here, for example, on the deployment unit view, the default is to show the name, description, and title. We can see up here, these are the internal names that we have it within the system, is title, description, and type. And then the display name that the user actually sees is the display name field. So we can look at those. Let's just jump back over here to see it. So we go down here again on the deployment unit tab, and these are the 3 columns that we see. Now we could just update these and be done with it, but the only problem with that is if the default ever changes in a future upgrade or something, you might accidentally lose your changes. So I don't recommend changing these defaults. I think it's better to actually just add a new row in here, and I'll show you how to make those active. So we'll submit a new one, and we're going to do the deployment unit first. So I'll just say my deployment unit columns, and you can put in a description if you want to. And when you come down below, what we have to do is enter in here a comma separated list of the internal names and then a comma separated list of display names. Now one gotcha is that you cannot have spaces in here. It's just a plain comma separated values. Now you might not know the internal names because those can be tricky. So what you can do is click on the help on the right hand side, and it will expand the list for you. So now you can see these are the list of all of the different column names that are internal. And if you're using the ZMF plugin, then these are some special column names that you can use, and then dimensions plugin, and then the SDA plugin. So depending on what you're using, you can use different ones. I like to use the ones that are common to everybody, so that is this list here. The problem is that if you use one that's, say, specific to ZMF and you put on their level, right, then only the ZMF rows will have something in that column and all the other rows will be empty. So it just kind of seems like a waste of space to me, but if there's something that you really need to see, you can certainly add those. So the easiest way to do this is to use this copy option, and just for fun to show you, I'm going to do, the columns that are common to everybody, and I'll just use the copy. Okay, and then we can come over here to the internal name field and paste it in. So this gives us the exact comma separated list that we have to use. And on display names, we could paste that in too, and then we could clean this up to make it look nicer, like ID, artifact. We can just kind of clean up what the column names are going to look like. So this is what I did the first time I went through this because I wanted to know what kind of data is in these fields. I don't even know, what all this stuff means. So I just wanted to see every single option that I had. So we just come in and we'll edit these really fast. And obviously these names aren't pretty, but we're just trying to get an idea of the data. Okay, and then we can save the change. All right, so we have our new record in here. So when we go back over to the release control, what we have to do to make it take effect is to click on Update on our package. And then underneath the options area, we have a couple of choices where we're picking which views and which columns to use. So we're just doing the deployment unit. So if I just come and click on search, and then I have all my deployment, all the different choices from that table that we were looking at. So I'm just going to pick my custom one. And then also on the add screen, when I'm adding new deployment units, I can pick there as well. So if I wanted to have a different list of columns in the view and the add, we could add even more rows to that aux table to make that happen. So I'm just going to use both on the same and then click OK. Now when we scroll down to the deployment unit, we can see all of the different rows. So you can scroll over, there's way too many for that to be helpful, but at least you can look at what is the data that displays on each of those columns, and then you can decide, do I want that column? Do I not want that column? What order do I want them in? And then you can just change that aux table to display the way that you want it. Also, I should note, no matter which order you put the fields in, whichever one is the first column will always be a link out to that system. So if I wanted, I could click on this and then that would open up a ZMF report where I could see details about this item. And this one is a Dimension CM link. So if I clicked on it, it would actually log me into Dimensions and take me directly to that item. So no matter which one is your first column, you'll always get that feature on the side. Okay, so now you get the idea, and you can do the same thing for requests and update this list also, but it works exactly the same, so I'm not going to go through those steps. Now you'll notice that I had to update this item and change which aux table I was actually looking at, or not which aux table, which row in the aux table I was using. So I had to update it. But that you don't want to do that every single time. So what I recommend is that you go and change the default value so that all new items get the new columns. And if there's some that you really want to update, you can update those manually, but it's more important to get the default right for all the new ones. So to do that, you will come back into your administrator and go under projects and go into your project. Ours is the release packages. Okay, and we drill down into the release package project and go into details. And from here we can go into states, and you want to look for the submit state. We actually have two of them, so we'll have to update both. So we'll start with that one, go into the details and our fields. The easiest way to find the fields that you want to change is to search for the word widget. So we have our fields here. If you sort by type, you'll see the ones that we need to update are these ones that are single relational fields. So we were doing the deployment unit, and this is for the add screen and then for the view screen. So we'll do the add screen first. We'll go to edit the details, and you'll see that the default value down here is that default row that was in the aux table. So if we just change it to my columns and save it, And then we can go back over here and we're going to change the view item now, go under details, and we'll change the default. Okay, now if we had built some for the requests, then we would change those here. And next we want to go back and we need to do the same thing for the other submit screen. So we'll go into details, fields, search for the word widget, sort by type so we can find the single relational items, and then deployment unit add, change the default, and the deployment unit view and change his default too. Okay, that's it. So now all of the new release packages that we create will have the new fields. We will submit a new release package. Okay, so you can even see it down on the submit screen. There's a little options window. You can open it and then you can see that it is already taking the new default values. So later, users can come in and modify it. Maybe some users like, one way of displaying the column and some like the other. They could change that in here. Or you could, if you wanted to force people to use one column style, you could even take these off of the form so that people couldn't change it. But it is there for you in the options area if you want to use it. So that is how you use the custom column feature, and both the deployment unit and the request views act exactly the same, so you can do either one of those that you want to. I hope that was helpful. Thank you.